benefits. So we're going to talk about Social Security spouse benefits, divorce spouse benefits, current spouse benefits, independently entitled divorce spouse benefits. What's that? Well, we'll talk about that. Surviving spouse benefits, widower benefits, disabled widow benefits. We're going to talk about all that today and also have a live Q&A as well. I already have a bunch of questions about those. Looks like we talked to someone recently and they took that information and they went and got some benefits. So that's a beautiful thing. A lot of people aren't getting what they are eligible for, what they need, because they are given some misinformation or they're not exactly sure if they can get benefits. Hey, well, wait a second, I can't get benefits from this person because I was remarried after this person. No, a lot of that times it doesn't make any difference for Social Security. Doesn't matter what you wrote in your ex or your ex's lawyer wrote in the divorce decree necessarily. We're going to get into all of that today. If you're all good and you're not even thinking about filing for spouse benefits or divorce spouse benefits or surviving spouse benefits, make sure you subscribe. And that way you've got this channel in your little subscription there. And that way, if you or anybody you know has a question about all things Social Security, you know where to find us. There's just so much misinformation out there. Okay, so let's get right into it. And I'm going to use my website, mygovexpert.com, as kind of the go-to thing here. So this is a completely free website. It has a bunch of tools on all things Social Security, retirement, disability, survivor benefits, Medicare, overpayments, appeals, myths, all of it. Okay, so let's start with just old family benefits here. And let's start right down the line with spouse benefits. Okay, so that's spouse benefits. You're currently married to your spouse, and you can get benefits from your current spouse if you're currently married and you have started your Social Security benefits. You have to be at least 62 years old, and your current spouse has already started. Your current spouse, this is important when I get to the independently entitled divorce spouse benefits. So your current spouse has to start benefits in order for you to start benefits as a spouse off that person's record, okay? And how much are you going to get? Your benefit amount has to be less than half of that person's full benefit amount. Don't look at the monthly benefit amount, what the Social Security calls the MBA, the monthly benefit amount. You need to look at the PIA, the primary insurance amount. That's the amount you or that person would have received at full retirement age if they waited till full retirement age. So that's the numbers you look at. There's too many people out there not getting the extra benefits they need because they're looking at the wrong benefit amount and they're saying, hey, then mine is not less than half a year, so I guess I shouldn't even call Social Security to get that extra money, and they're losing that money. Okay, so you got to look at the full benefit amount. Your one benefit amount has to be less than half of the other. Okay, and you both have to start receiving benefits. There was an old program, was called File and Suspend, but they ended that about in 2016. You can no longer do this whole file and suspend thing. Both people have to be receiving benefits in order for a spouse to receive benefits on that record. So even if you're not entitled, if you're not eligible for benefits because you did not work outside the home, you worked, but you didn't get paid outside the home, then doesn't matter. What you do is you call Social Security, you file for benefits. They have to go through the procedure to confirm that, yes, in fact, you are not eligible for Social Security on your own record because you didn't pay into it enough. And then they say, okay, all right, we've cleared that hurdle. Now let's go ahead and get you spouse benefits on your spouse that is currently receiving benefit amount. Okay, how much you will receive really depends on your benefit amount, your PIA, and your spouse's PIA, and how old you are. Not necessarily how old the other spouse is, but how old you are when you start those benefits. So it's based on, if you start those benefits at 62, then obviously it's going to be reduced. If you start your benefits at full retirement age, just like pretty much everything with Social Security, when you start your benefits early, they're always reduced. Okay, so those are spouse benefits. And I've got a little spouse benefit calculator that you can go in there, and I've got a work, yes, there is work limitations. Anytime you collect Social Security benefits early, There are work limitations, and it gets into if you go into my retirement section there, you can click on the working and benefits, and it gives you a nice little calculator on there. It tells you what the limitations are, what the difference is between an annual versus a monthly earnings list, and all the rest of it, earnings test. But all that information is there. It's 100% free. Use it, share it, all that good stuff. Okay, what about divorced spouse benefits? Here are some issues with divorced spouse benefits. The age and everything has to be the same, 62 years old. Okay, so you have to be 62, and your divorced spouse has to be at least 62 years old. Your benefit amount still has to be, the PIA, the primary insurance amount, still has to be less than half of that person's. Okay, but in terms of remarriage, here's what a lot of people think. They say, okay, let's say you were married 3 times, and you were married to your first ex for 10 years. That's one of the qualifications. You had to be married at least 10 years. And Social Security has exceptions to the exceptions to the exceptions on so many different policies, but that's one thing they don't have an exception to. If you were married to someone for 9 years, 11 months, and 30 days, there's no exception there. You had to be married to the person for 10 years. There is one exception. I guess I just lied. There is one exception. If you were married to someone for 5 years and then divorced that person and remarried that same person by the end of the next calendar year, and then were married for at least another 5 years, Social Security can actually add those 2 times together. Not a lot of people know that. That's something that's hidden deep in the policy. But anyway, you had to be remarried the same person by the end of the next calendar year. And I looked, and 5% remarry the same person. So there's that. I want to throw that out there. Okay, so you had to be married to a person for at least 10 years. And here's what people get wrong. They say, well, yes, I was married to my first ex in 20s and 30s, but then I got remarried, so I guess that kicks me off those benefits. No. I've taken hundreds of thousands of spouse claims, and when people come in and file for benefits, they come in and file for benefits on their own record, and then the Social Security employee, or if you're filing a line, there's questions there, and it said, were you ever married for 10 years or longer, or end in death? And you put down there, yes, I was married 3 times. And if you're talking in your local Social Security office, then the Social Security employee will say, all right, let's go through it. You were married 3 times, and each one of those lasted at least 10 years. All right, let's go through it. Well, the name of the first spouse. You were married 10 years. Do you know that person's Social Security number? If you don't, no problem. What's the name? How old do you think that person is now? Where were they born, city and state? And the Social Security employee will find that person's Social Security number. So you don't need to know the Social Security number. I have never not been able to find somebody's Social Security number. So easy. If Social Security employee says, I just can't find that person's Social Security number, then they're not doing their job very well. So find someone else. So you can get that person, the Social Security employee will then go on to spouse number 2. Okay, what was that person's name? To get the Social Security number. And what they're doing is they're finding you the most money. They're dialing for dollars, I guess. So they're saying, first spouse is this much, second spouse is this much, third spouse is this much. Oh, it looks like second spouse is the most. That's the highest benefit amount. That person is 62 years old now, go through all the numbers. Let's go ahead and file on your second spouse because that's going to be the most money. And here's where people also mess up, is they do that and then they forget about it. And things change. So if you filed on your second spouse or your first spouse or your third spouse or whatever the case may be, and you're getting higher benefits on that person's record, and then a year, 5 years, 10 years later, one of the other spouses passes away, you just might be eligible for more money. Because when you file for benefits as a spouse or a divorced spouse, that means that person is still out there alive and kicking. And you get up to 50%. Your benefit has to be less than 50% of that person's. Surviving spouse benefits, you get up to 100%. So even though your first ex-spouse didn't work very much, that just might be a higher benefit amount as a surviving spouse because the calculations are different. Okay, here's another thing that people, I've fought this battle many times. most of the times I've won. And here it is. A spouse comes in and starts their benefit, and I go through the whole rigmarole. Okay, you were married 2 times, whatever. Oh, here's the winner. You can get more money off this particular person, your first ex-spouse. No, I don't want any money from that person. I hate that person. I don't want any money from that person. Or that person has remarried and they have a new family and a new spouse, and so I don't want to mess with anything there. And then I go through the deal. Okay, number one, they'll never know about it. Unless you tell them, they'll never know about it. And it doesn't affect their new spouse, doesn't affect their new children. Their benefits won't be reduced because you start getting benefits on that person's record. Okay, so I usually win those battles. So, okay, they'll never know about it, and it doesn't affect their benefits, and so there won't be any issue at the family reunion or whatever, or I won't hear from the kids that I took, whatever. So people usually don't have an issue with that. What they do have an issue with is, I just don't want anything from that person. I hate that person. I want to get that person completely out of my life. I don't want anything from that person. And I said, well, it's not really from that person. You tolerated that person, let's say for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years or something, and they put into the system, the Social Security Trust Fund has that money. You're getting it from the Social Security Trust Fund. It just so happens it's, that person paid into that Social Security Trust Fund 10 years, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So it's not really coming technically from that person. It's coming from a fund that they paid into. So sometimes I win that battle, and sometimes I don't care. Yeah, sure, I can get another $500, $600, $700 a month, but it still has that person's stank on it, I guess. I've heard that, and they just said no. They just refused that money. But 99% of the time, yeah, we're able to get through that, and they get it. Another thing out there for these divorced spouse benefits is what a spouse tries, or a divorced spouse tries, or their lawyer, what they try is they put in the divorce decree that you won't get my Social Security, and Social Security doesn't care what you put in their divorce decree. When you have to submit your divorce decree, and please share, like, subscribe, talk to people around you, people that are struggling, and say, hey, weren't you married one time? Oh, yeah, but I can't get any benefits on that person's record because in the divorce decree they said I can't get their Social Security benefits. And you tell them that means nothing. When they file for divorce spouse benefits, they need 2 documents, a marriage certificate and a divorce decree. Marriage certificate, Social Security employees check 3 things: the names, the date of marriage. On the divorce decree, they check 3 things: the names, the date of divorce. Everything else, the other 30, 40, 50, 60 pages, who got the dog, who got the 1970 Pinto, they don't care. Sometimes I check that to see how much the 1970 Pinto was, how much they, valued it. Oh, $1,200 for a Pinto, 1970. Okay, anyway. But Social Security doesn't care what it says in there about you'll never get the Social Security. That's a whole different thing. They might take that out of an alimony or something, but Social Security, it has nothing to do with Social Security whatsoever. It's about how long you were married. They just need to prove the 10 years of marriage. So people out there are still people out there that are not getting those benefits because they think they can't, because, they remarried, or their ex is remarried and has a new family, or it says so in the divorce decree. None of that matters. So please, 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 let's reach out to people, particularly those that are having a difficult time in this economy, and let's make sure they get the benefits they're eligible for. And again, okay, so divorce spouse benefit calculator, free calculator, there it is. You don't need to subscribe to the website or my newsletter. I do a newsletter. Eventually, I'll start the newsletter. I'm working on a new website now to help people, all the people that are going to be losing health insurance, Medicaid, Affordable Care Act, and everything. So I'll get back to doing that here soon. Okay. So if I remarry, here's the question and answer on that. Will my ex-spouse know? They won't know. How do earning limits apply to divorce? Same type of thing. When you're collecting Social Security benefits, you're limited. If you file for benefits early, you're limited to how much you make. Same situation. Okay, so what about the independently entitled divorce spouse? This is one that, unfortunately, a lot of frontline, the customer service representatives at Social Security Administration, often they give out the wrong information. So that's why on this particular one, I put the actual Social Security reference down there, and that way you can go in there into Social Security, and when they say, oh, you can't get benefits because of this, that, and the other, you've got the policy. This is part of that 20,000 pages I was talking about that says, no, you can get those. So, so I've told many people, oh, you can get these benefits, and they go into the Social Security office and they come back here, the live Q&A the next day, and they said, Ed, you lied to me. I went in there and they said, you can't do that. Why? Because they said, my ex, my divorced spouse, has to be receiving Social Security benefits for me to start receiving Social Security benefits, and that is 100% incorrect. It's called independently entitled divorced spouse. I've done thousands and thousands of these claims. If you're currently married, your spouse has to be collecting benefits for you to collect benefits on that person's record. If you're divorced, no. Independently entitled divorced spouse. So if you have an ex that is just waiting till their full retirement age, or just waiting just to spite you or something, which doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. As long as that person is at least 62 years old, doesn't matter if they're receiving benefits. You file for benefits on your own record, and then you file the independently entitled divorced spouse claim. And that's a little bit more work in terms of the application process, because that person hasn't filed yet. Your ex-spouse hasn't filed yet. So there's a couple of extra hurdles that have to be jumped through. But Social Security employees will walk you through that, because when you file for benefits, you know, they check to make sure your earnings record is correct and everything is good. So that person, when person files, they're all set up. But since that person hasn't filed, they're kind of not set up. So Social Security needs to do an extra couple of checks to make sure everything's cool and copacetic. So, but you can still get those benefits. It doesn't matter whether that person has filed for benefits or not. And I've got some frequently asked questions on that on my website as well. Okay, let's go into Survivor. So survivor benefits, so surviving spouse benefits, 10 years? Nope. If you were married, if you're a surviving divorce spouse, then yes. Surviving divorce spouse, widow, widower, same thing. Social Security calls it surviving spouse. If you're a surviving spouse, divorce spouse, the 10-year marriage applies. But if you were married to the person when that person passed away, you only had to be married at least 9 months. And there's a couple exceptions. Is if that person, it was an accident, or that person was active duty in the military. So if you were married and then, you know, honeymoon, even 4 months, 5 months, if it was, you know, a terrible car accident or something like that, there is an exception for that. So surviving spouse, that's not the 50%. That is, if you're a surviving spouse and you start those surviving spouse benefits at your full retirement age, you get up to 100% of that. You get 100% of that person's benefit amount, the full benefit amount. It's not the 50% anymore. It's the 100%. If you're receiving, let's say you're receiving divorce spouse benefits and that person passes away, then it'll automatically convert most of the time to, oh, threw that up there. It'll convert automatically most of the time to surviving spouse benefits. So I've had this happen. People come into live Q&A and they say, hey, I've been receiving benefits as a divorced spouse for a while, and then all of a sudden my benefit amount doubled. What's going on? What happened? And I said, well, it sounds like you don't keep in touch with your ex, but that's not possible anymore, because unfortunately your ex has passed away. And you're past your full retirement age. So Social Security automatically converts. It's called auto convert. Unique name, right? It automatically converts to surviving spouse benefits. So one day you might be receiving $1,000 total, and the next month you receive $2,000 because that person has passed away, and that's 100% automatic, unless you're under your full retirement age, and then you can delay those surviving spouse benefits and continue to get benefits on your own record and wait to get the 100%. So Social Security allows you to make that choice. And again, here's what I see a lot of people doing is they file for benefits and they don't realize things change. They don't realize that, they were married, 2 or 3 times, and then one day, one person on one record, your benefits are this, but then maybe the first spouse passes away and then you can switch. And people say, well, how do I know that? Well, if you don't keep in touch with that person, then a good idea is to call up every now and then to Social Security and say, hey, I want to see if I'm eligible for benefits on this person's record. Because sometimes, you know, um, you call up on someone and you want to see if you're eligible for benefits on that person's record, and they say no. But and then people think, oh no, I guess for whatever reason, I'm just not qualified for benefits on that person's record. No, that's not it. It just might be you're not eligible for benefits today because of how the calculations are done. So there's a lot of people out there, again, that are not receiving benefits that they need and, are eligible for because they were told by Social Security 5-10 years ago that you're not eligible for benefits on this particular person's record. And it's not because you were not eligible. It's just that there was no more money there. Your benefit amount was not less than half of that person's. But since that time, maybe they worked a lot more, or they're part of the Social Security Fairness Act that was just recently passed. They were a federal, state, city employee, and their PIA increased. Completely unfair, but I won't go there today. Or that person passed away. So call up Social Security and say, hey, I just want to make sure, you told me 5-10 years ago that I'm not eligible. Was it because of the way the benefits are calculated? Well, what about now? Or maybe add on to that saying, okay, not today. So, okay, because still the 50%, that person is still out there, yada, yada, yada. And say, well, let's say, I'm not wishing this, but let's say something happened to that person. Then would I be eligible for benefits on that person's record? And then they'll probably, maybe they'll tell you, well, they won't tell you the number. They won't tell you the amount. They'll just say, yeah, in the future, they're usually pretty cagey about that. They'll say, yeah, in the future, it might be a good idea to keep tabs on this person somehow, some way, or call us up every 6 months or year to find out if you can file for benefits, if you can file for survivor benefits. And that's a clue to Social Security. They won't give you the actual amount until you prove your relationship to that person. So you just can't call up and say, hey, can I receive, benefits? How much is, Bob or Barbara's benefit amount? I want to see if I can get him benefits. They're not going to give you that. They'll just say, you need to come in and file for benefits. So if they say you need to come in to file, that means there's money there. They're not going to, waste everybody's time. So that's the difference between surviving spouse to surviving divorced spouse. Surviving spouse, again, you just had to be married to the person for at least 9 months. And surviving divorced spouse, you had to be married because it was a divorce type situation. You had to be married to the person for 10 years. Okay. And then there's another one. It's called disabled widows benefits. You can go on to my disability part on this. I've got tons of questions about disability benefits. But disabled widows benefits is, as the name implies, disabled widows. So if you're a surviving spouse of someone that passed away and you're at least 50 years old, so disabled widow benefit starts from 50 to 59. So if you're a disabled widow, you can get benefits from that person's record. Okay. And this is some of the stuff they're talking about in 2026. There's a senator that has gone out there that says nobody should receive benefits if they didn't pay into it. And the only people that receive benefits that didn't pay into it are children, surviving children, disabled children, disabled widows benefits, a spouse who didn't work but is entitled to benefits on their spouse's record. So this senator is basically saying all of those people, you're not eligible for benefits. So this is a U.S. senator. I won't say what state this person is from since I live right across the border and the Red River, so you can find out when it was Oklahoma, but anyway. So there's a senator talking about this. There has been proposals to means test survivor or spouse benefits. So if you're receiving X amount of money and you've got more money in the bank or whatever the case may be, then they're talking about making that proposal. But none of that is going to happen unless this is not something that the Social Security Administration, DOGE, who is currently run the Social Security Administration, that's not anything they can unilaterally do on their own. That is something that needs to change by the Social Security Act, by the Social Security Act that, the original one, 1935. They need to amend that to change that, and that has to go through Congress, the House of Representatives, Senate, and it has to be signed by the president. And we are going to make sure that doesn't happen. And another thing, there's something out there on social media about Social Security spying on your bank accounts and stuff like that. Now, the IRS might, that's a whole different, I'll talk about the IRS, but in terms of Social Security, no, that's just social media craziness out there. Unless you're receiving SSI. And people are saying, but Ed, you just said Social Security is not spying, but then you said SSI. SSI is not technically SSA. SSI is a completely separate program. Yes, it's administered by the Social Security Administration, but it's a welfare program that Social Security took over 50 years ago in 1974. It is supplemental security income. It's a welfare-based program, a needs-based program, low income, low resources, and they just said they've been monitoring bank accounts for those people since 2011. And they just tweaked it a little bit starting August 1st. And social media took that and ran with it and said, oh my gosh, now they're going to monitor everybody's bank account. Stop it. Stop it. So, all right. I think I went through everything. I tried not to go as long as possible because I got a lot of questions, but there was a lot of material to cover. So let's get into all your questions about all things spouse benefits, survivor spouse benefits, all the rest of it. Let's see here. Okay. Remember, if you get a denial letter from Medicaid, you have the right to appeal a decision. 100%. If you get a denial letter from anybody, doesn't matter who it is, Medicaid, Medicare Advantage plan, Social Security disability, whatever the case may be, you can appeal it. And on my website, if you click on more up there and click on appeals, it explains the appeal process for Social Security level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, disability, Medicare appeals process, the Medicare Advantage appeals process, Medicare Advantage prior authorization denials, drug formulary utilization, all of that kind of stuff. So yes, always, 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 always fight it. And we're putting together a program that we're going to help you fight it. So make sure you subscribe and like, and that should be coming out hopefully in the first part of September. We are going to come together as a community and start helping more people. That there's a lot of people that need help. So, all right. Can you get SSI and spousal benefits? Yes, you can. So, SSI, supplemental security income, welfare-based program, that the max for 2025 is $967. Okay. So $967. So if your spouse benefits, your benefits and a spouse benefits or just a surviving spouse benefit. Oh, that's one thing I want to make sure I mention. If you are filing for spouse benefits or divorce spouse benefits, you always have to file for benefits on your own record first, and then the other one. When you're filing for surviving spouse benefits, that is not the fact. If you're filing for surviving spouse benefits, you can pick. As I mentioned, you can wait and delay and stuff like that. So let's say you're 62 years old and you're trying to figure out whether to file for benefits on your own record or a surviving spouse. You can choose. You can say, okay, I'll file for surviving spouse benefits now. I won't touch mine, so mine will continue to increase until I hit 70 years old, and then I'll switch over to mine. Perfect. You can do that. Or you can say, I'll go ahead and file for mine on my record, and then not touch the surviving spouse benefits, and then wait until I reach full retirement age, not 70, because it ain't going to help you at 70. It's not going to increase. When you hit your full retirement age, the surviving spouse is going to be max, possibly max. There's another thing in there called the widow's limb. It depends on when your surviving spouse took the benefit. So there's a kind of a weird calculation there. Okay, but let me get back to your question, Kathy. Yes, you can. So if let's say you're getting $500 right now from your record, yours and your spouse's, your surviving spouse, or whatever the case may be. So all you get is $500, and you've got no other income or resources to speak of, then you can file for SSI. And yes, if you file for SSI, you have to give Social Security permission to monitor your bank accounts to make sure you don't hit the lottery or, get some, $1 billion inheritance from a long lost uncle and stuff like that. So again, that's been around since 2011. They just tweaked the threshold. Before they didn't do that for people that had alleged resources under $400. And now they just said, that $400, it never made any sense. We're going to monitor everybody's bank account if you're on, that needs-based program. So social media. So you can get $500 as a spouse, retirement benefits, and then file for SSI. And then what will happen is you'll still get only $967. It's just that you'll get $500 from whatever you're currently getting now, and then another $467 from the SSI. And if you're SSI eligible, then you're categorically eligible for Medicaid, as long as Medicaid is still around out there. Did a video yesterday. It's like, okay, if your entire intent, all these, this big, beautiful bill, they're saying that, well, no, the reason we're cutting Medicaid is because we're going after these, 26-year-old, gamers that are lazy, playing video games in the basement. Okay, well, why don't you go after them? Why do you also have to cut $1 trillion? That makes no sense. So obviously the entire idea is to cut Medicaid, but so there's that. But if you're on SSI, you're categorically eligible to also receive Medicaid from the state. Husband's getting SSDI. I'm still working, but make under allowed amount to collect and work. I'm 62. Can I start collecting mine now if something happened to Jim, get his full amount? Yes, you can start collecting yours now because it sounds like you're under the annual earnings limit this year, which is the $23,400, according to this. So yeah, you can collect benefits on your own record, and you can also get spouse benefits because he is currently receiving benefits. He doesn't have to necessarily be 62 because he is receiving disability benefits and you're at least 62. So you can get benefits on your record and get benefits on his record is too. So can you get spousal benefits if my husband is alive? Yes. Yep. Spousal benefits. So it sounds like you said husband, so I assume current husband, but he has to be receiving benefits for you to receive benefits on his record. So, because it sounds like you're still married. Asking for a friend, Sally, our first hero of the day, looking out for other people. You're too awesome. We appreciate you. What if a couple was married 7 years, he receives retirement and they get spousal? They want a divorce. Will he still get spousal benefits? Not if it was only 7 years. No, unless he passes away and they're married while they passes away. But yeah, no, have to be married for 10 years. No exceptions. So I'm 66 in 2 months. I want to collect after I'm 67. If I continue to work after 67, do I get penalized? Nope, not at all. You can work and make $1 billion a month after your full retirement age, and it doesn't affect your Social Security negatively at all. You notice I said negatively because it just it might improve your Social Security. So after you start receiving Social Security benefits, people are amazed. Wait a second, I'm receiving Social Security benefits. Why do I have to continue paying into Social Security if I still work? Well, death and taxes. So you'll continue to pay into Social Security, your FICA tax, the FICA Social Security, FICA Medicare. And then if that's one of your high 35 years, then your benefits will increase. So every year your benefits can increase. COLA, if there's a COLA, if they don't play around with the COLA numbers, which is kind of scary this time. This first time this has been like this forever, where they're saying, no, we can decide, we can make up our own numbers now. Reality is no longer part of our repertoire, I guess. So COLA can increase your benefit amount, and working, continue work. So if you're 90 years old, working and paying in Social Security, and that's one of your high 35 years of earnings, just might, increase your benefit amount. Gracie, yeah, Dr. Ed, you put in the Amazon affiliate link. Much appreciated. Yes, thank you, Gracie. I appreciate it. Yeah, this website is going to be crazy expensive, but my son and I are footing the bill. So anything y'all can do to help out, we appreciate it. Call our chapter who sponsors this, help with Medicare, Medicare supplements, Medicare Advantage. I've got the link down there. If you're going to buy something on Amazon, you know, it helps out the whole platform. It helps out those free calculators, the free website, the new free website. That's going to help out a lot of people. So, and it doesn't cost you anything. If you're going to buy something on Amazon anyway, click that button, and then, yeah, they send us a few pennies. So it's a beautiful thing. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I have a question about my disability. My CDR is scheduled 5 or 7 years. At 7th year, I'll be 65. So your thoughts about my CDR? Yeah, forget about it. You may or may not get it. It's completely budget driven and roll of the dice. So even if you're 65, you may get it. If that particular office has a quota, Congress determines, they set a separate allocation for continuing disability reviews, and depending on the budget. So some years, you know, the offices just don't have a budget, so they don't do them, even if you're up. Even if it's, hey, I'm supposed to get a CDR this year. If the office doesn't have a budget because Congress didn't provide a budget, then that's it. Let's see. Gracie, I couldn't find it. We'll look again. Yeah, it's in the YouTube description. It's a little bit down there, so it's like about midway down. So, oh, Joseph is back. I got very good news today about my CT scan results, and I have benign. Okay, benign. Way to go, Joseph. And look at that. Oh, we got the best. We have got the best community. Everybody's worried about Joseph, and everything came through perfectly. Awesome. Good deal. Listen to a YouTube of another Nan, don't remember name, and he said they will be going into your bank accounts if we have too much, and they'll take our SSI, and who knows where it will go. Yeah, if you're receiving SSI, if you're receiving the welfare-based benefit, yeah, you gave Social Security permission to go to check your bank account every now and then because you're receiving a welfare. But you probably mean Social Security. Everybody confuses SSI and SSA. They think SSI means Social Security income. It's not. It doesn't. It means supplemental security income. Yeah. So, and when you file for SSI, you give, it's a voluntary permission. The AFI, access to financial institutions. Part of the SSI application, you know, they ask you about income and resources to see if you're actually needy. And then they say, hey, you need to sign this to give us permission. It's a voluntary, it's all voluntary. You need to sign this and give us permission to access your bank records and stuff like that every now and then to make sure you don't get, you know, $1 billion from a long lost uncle or something like that. And if you say, no, I don't want you to have access to my bank account, then N18, that's the code that's used for denial. You're denied. So, but it's not going to be retirement unless, again, if Congress changes and said they're going to means test things now, that, you know, you're not going to get it, but that has to go through Congress, has to pass both houses, has to be signed by the president and all the rest of the kind of stuff. So yeah, just more craziness out there in social media. I spend probably 20, 30% of my time talking about all the misinformation out there on social media. So who gets spouse benefits? We are divorced, and also the second wife is divorced from this man. You both do. Yeah. So I've had people that have come in, and I've looked at their record on their MBR, the master beneficiary record, and it has that person receiving benefit, and it has 3 exes receiving benefits from that same person. So yeah, and one doesn't affect the other. Could you imagine if it did? If you've got 2 exes receiving benefits, and all of a sudden the third ex comes, and the first 2 are reduced because of the third ex. Yeah, and they all live in the same little small town and stuff, and it's like, I can't pay my rent because, yeah, could you imagine that? That would be, yeah. What is the amount of dollars you can work if getting SSI before they start deducting your benefits? With SSI, welfare-based benefit, pretty much every dollar, it's pretty much an offset. So yeah, for SSI, any work coming in, any money coming in, it's almost immediate offset. What if I have a disabled minor child as an ex-spouse? Okay, so you have a disabled minor. Okay, so disabled minor child. Okay, so that's the child is the child of both of you, you and your ex-spouse. Okay. All right. So if either you or your ex-spouse files for benefits, then the child can get benefits on that person's record. If that child is under the age of 18 or became disabled before the age of 22. So if you file for retirement benefits or disability benefits and you start those benefits, then the child under 18 or disabled before the age of 22 can get benefits on your record. If your ex files for benefits, starts receiving retirement or disability benefits, or passes away, or you pass away, then a child can receive surviving spouse benefits, or it's called DAC, Disabled Adult Child Benefits. And those are the ones that I guess the senator, he would just, yeah, he just doesn't know how Social Security operates. So he said, people that, don't pay into it shouldn't get it. Okay. Tell that to surviving children. So tell that to Paul Ryan, the old senator there, who hated Social Security, even though he grew up on Social Security because his father passed away. So it's always. Do I have to be 62 to collect ex-spouse benefits? He is 64. I am 55 with the disabled minor child. Yes, you have to be 62. Ex-spouse benefits, yes. Disabled minor child. If he's 62, remember, if he's 62, then that means if he's starting to receive benefits, if he filed for benefits, if you don't keep in touch with him, maybe he did file at 62 and you just don't know about it. And if that's his child, then call Social Security and say, I want to file for auxiliary child benefits on the parent's record. And they will say, no, you can't do that. And you'll say, why? And it says, well, that person hasn't started receiving benefits yet. And you'll know that, okay, yeah. Congresswoman Stansbury said all at risk for losing SNAP. As far as Medicaid, et cetera, all they can is get grants, et cetera, put in guardrails. She hopes these parts of HR 1 will be repealed. Yeah, it's going to take all of us. It's going to take a community, and we are the community to do that. We just need to get organized, which we are working on right now. Hopefully the first part of September, we're going to get it rolled out, and we're going to come together, and we're going to get some of this stuff. We're going to help out a lot of people. So we've already helped out. We've probably found hundreds of millions of dollars over the last year or so doing these live Q&As. So many people have found benefits, or even if they haven't found benefits, they've helped other people find benefits, or they at least can rest that they know that they're getting everything they're eligible for, right? So, Bev, my 2-year-old divorce anniversary is December 26th this year. How far in advance shall I sign up to receive top off for the December 2025? Okay, I'm not sure about yeah, 2-year anniversary. Oh, that's one thing. Yeah, not sure to divorce anniversary, that not really relevant to Social Security. But you just reminded me of something I missed saying. I think I might have missed it. I think I did miss it. The independently entitled divorced spouse, you don't, your ex-spouse doesn't have to be receiving benefits. They just have to be 62 years old. And there's one other thing. You have to be, the 2 years, or excuse me, 10 years marriage. And there's only one other thing. You have to be divorced for at least 2 continuous years. Is that maybe what you're talking about, Dev? So maybe that's what you're talking about. I forgot to mention that. So thank you for reminding me, Bev. You're too awesome if that's what you're talking about. So independently entitled divorced spouse, you can file for benefits. You have to file for benefits on your own record, and then you can file for benefits on your ex's record, even if they haven't filed. However, you have to be finally divorced from that person for at least 2 years. So maybe that's what Bev was talking about. And she had a nice way of reminding me I should mention that. Maybe that's what Bev is all about. You're awesome, Bev. I appreciate it. Some people in my small town who only have Medicaid and saw none of this coming being told today our clinic is closing. Yeah. Yes. This, we're going to hear A lot of that. We're going to hear a lot of, wait, I didn't think that had anything to do with me. I didn't think this would touch my family. Why didn't anybody warn us? I thought Medicare was set. Yeah, because everybody's benefit, everybody's health insurance, it's projected to go up considerably more than previous years plus. Because if you have health insurance from work, you're gonna be paying a lot more next year. Why? Because Medicaid was cut. And hospitals are going to start eating that because people are still going to get sick. They're still going to, get injured, and they're going to go to hospital, and they don't have Medicaid anymore, so they can't bill Medicaid. So, and the people are poor. So the hospitals and clinics and doctors are just going to get stuck with a bill, and they're going to transfer that to you. So everybody, Medicare, private insurance, the Affordable Care Act, Marketplace, all going up. It's all going up. And hospitals are being closed down and clinics. And we knew this was coming. We all knew it was coming. And it's a beautiful thing, according to the politicians that passed it. So how one group of people have another group of people by the, it's a racket. Yeah, it definitely. Yeah, and we're kind of pawns in this whole thing, aren't we? So the rich and powerful can get their tax breaks. But hey, at least we have, the private, I think one of the tax breaks was if you want to buy a private airplane, there's a big tax break for a private airplane too. So I guess that's a consolation. If you lose your Medicaid, at least you can get a tax break for your private airplane. Yeah, so anyway. X died at 53 from cancer, but worked 35 years as a lineman. I am receiving his benefits. Okay. 53. Wow. That's way, way, way too early. So good thing you got to remember. So you're receiving his benefits as a surviving spouse, and maybe you never touched your own record. So remember, when you turn when you turn 70, that's the max age for your benefits to increase. When you make sure your benefits are not more on your own record. Social Security, what they're supposed to do, if they actually had employees in the office after Doge and everybody, Social Security has been, depleted for 50 years. This is the worst it's been since 1935 in terms of staff to help you. But what they're supposed to do is they call it a WIB-RIB letter. And they get a listing of all the people in that particular jurisdiction, that district, in whatever office, and they say, hey, in your area you have this many people who are currently receiving surviving spouse benefits, but their benefits on their own record are more now. So you need to contact those people and have them file for benefits on their own record. And so they send out letters if they have staff to do that. Sometimes the letters don't go out. Sometimes it goes to the wrong address. It's not delivered. You didn't update your address. People throw it away because they think it's a scam. And there's a lot of people out there that have more money eligible for them, but they're not getting it. So let's get the information out there. Karen, I don't get 100%. I get 50% of my deceased husband's Social Security, married 13 years. Probably because you're getting benefits on your own record. Yeah, for a deceased spouse, you probably filed for benefits on your own record. And so let's say you were getting $500 and you're eligible as a surviving spouse of $1,000. So you're getting extra $500 from that person's record. So for a total of $1,000. Here's another thing people mess up on is if you have a husband and wife and they are, let's say the husband is receiving $2,000 a month and the wife is receiving $1,000 a month. So you've got $3,000 coming into the house. Okay. And then let's say the husband passes away. And then what people hear is that you will get their check. Yes. Minus your own. So you will get $2,000 minus your own. So, which is $1,000. So you'll still continue to get your $1,000 from your record, plus you'll get another $1,000 from that person's record for a total of $2,000. So essentially what happens is one month, you're getting $3,000 coming into the house, and that person passes away, and the next month you lose that $1,000. You only get $2,000. So you're still getting that benefit, but it's minus your own. So that's probably the calculation. And that's usually the worst interviews. I've done this, I've had to give that information out thousands of times. And I tell people, they think, oh, I will just get that person's check. So $3,000 last month, I'll continue to get $3,000. And I say, no, unfortunately, that's not how the calculations work. You're going to lose that $1,000. And it's terrible. So that's one of the reasons my son and I reached out to a place that you can get final expense burial insurance. So I've got that down in my description as well. Call David Dufour, and he'll see if burial insurance, final expense insurance is good for you. So give him a call. And if you sign up, then he throws a couple of dollars our way as well, and will help us out with the website and all the free calculators. So we appreciate it. So we're essentially trying to get all this money comes from insurance companies, and the insurance companies funnel their money to the brokers and the agents that sign you up, and they give us a few dollars. So we're essentially having this giant billion-dollar insurance companies fund all this free information, which I think is pretty funny. Don't tell these insurance companies that they're doing good, because then they might stop it. If they found out they were being altruistic, they might say, oh my gosh, we're actually helping people. We can't do that. Let's cut off Ed and his son. And yeah, so, so it's kind of a Robin Hood situation here. I love it. If a widow collects her Social Security and her late husband's Social Security and she dies, can their grown children get any? No. Yeah, we've had that many a times come into our office. No, unfortunately, unless they are disabled adult children. If they became disabled before the age of 22, then yes, you can collect benefits at any time. So forever, if you're a disabled adult child. Okay, I've got a couple of video questions that people sent in. So let's see what we got here.
I'm 58 and I'm on SSDI. Do I qualify for spousal benefits from an ex-husband?
All right, so that was a quick one, short and sweet. No, unfortunately. Ex-husband, unless you were a surviving spouse, disabled. Well, you're disabled, so I would maybe check out disabled widows benefits. But when they filed for your SSDI, they should have checked out. But it sounds like it's just your ex and not a deceased ex. But if that person is deceased, you might be eligible for disabled widows benefits. Okay. But other than that, no, because of your age. Once you turn 62, then you might be eligible for benefits on that person's record. And here's what a lot of people miss, is they think because they're receiving SSDI, they can't receive any other benefits. That is 100% incorrect. You can receive SSDI, disability benefits, and collect surviving spouse benefits and divorce spouse benefits and independently entitled divorce spouse benefits. And people are like, well, yeah, I know. Okay, Ed, I know that. I know I can get an extra $200 or $300 from my ex-spouse, but that's going to kick me off of disability. And the extra money is awesome, but it's also going to kick me off Medicare because I'm no longer on disability and I'm only 62 or 63. No, incorrect. You will still be on disability. So let's say you get $500 on disability and you're eligible for another $500 from divorced or surviving or whatever. You'll get $1,000, but you'll get an extra $500 on top of that, but you're still on disability underneath. And because you're still on disability, your Medicare will continue. So a lot of people miss that. They're on disability and there's extra benefits out there, but they're scared to get it because they think they're going to lose their Medicare. 100% incorrect, unfortunately.
SSI and Medicaid for disability. I can't afford to live in my house any longer. Can I sell my house and buy a smaller place will I lose SSI and Medicaid if I do?
Okay, so both of those are needs-based programs, SSI, Supplemental Security Income, and Medicaid. So low income, low resources. It depends what state you are for Medicaid, but in terms of SSI, it also depends. If you are going to sell your house, and after you sell your house, after you pay off the mortgage and all that kind of stuff, you get, $80,000 in your bank account, and you immediately turn around and buy an $80,000 smaller place, then you're good. You just need to contact, it's called a spin down. You just contact the local Social Security office, talk to the SSI person and say, hey, here's what's going to happen. Remember, I gave you access to check my bank accounts. It's not some conspiracy theory, been around for a decade, 15 years. And so when that money hits your bank account, they're going to know about it. So it's good to reach out to them and say, hey, here's the deal. I'm going to sell my home. I'm going to get 20, 30, 40, 50 billion dollars or whatever. I'm immediately going to buy another home. I'm going to fix it up. I'm going to update my car, fix my car, buy some furniture, yada, yada, yada. I'm going to spend it down. And they'll say, oh, okay. It depends how it all works out, but they might say, oh, for that one particular month, we might not give you something because of X, Y, and Z, the calculations, but the next month we'll restart it after you do the spend down and stuff like that. So, yeah, it could be no issue whatsoever. It depends how much you get. But if there are resource limits, $2,000 if you're single. So anything over $2,000, then you won't be eligible for SSI, but there's that spin down type thing. So if you have debts you want to pay off, or friends that loaned you money that you want to pay off, just have to provide the receipts. So, and then for Medicaid, same type of thing, but it's really state. It's determined by the state. Some states don't really have resource limits per se, so I would definitely reach out to the states and ask them exactly the same thing. Here's how much I'm going to be getting and all the rest of it. So, and we've got another person that was a little shy, decided not to show their face. And
good afternoon, Dr. Ed. My name is Shailesh Shah. I have a slightly messy situation, and I hope you can give me an answer. I will just frame the question and without confusing details that are associated with it. If I start my Social Security benefit before reaching FRA, and then later on, if I change to spousal benefit after reaching FRA, then will I get the same amount or more amount or less amount than what I would have received if I had never applied before FRA and I directly applied for spousal benefit only after reaching FRA?
okay, all right, yeah, spousal benefits and all that kind of stuff, the calculations, that's why I put a calculator up there and it gives you all the calculations and stuff on my website. So, okay. So number one, for spousal benefits, if you're currently married to that person, then you have to file for benefits on that person record if they're receiving benefits. So if you file for benefits at full retirement age, then you're going to get the full benefit amount on your record. If you file for benefits early on your record, then you're going to get reduced. And then later, let's say after your full retirement age, you file your spouse files for benefits. So then you file for benefits on that person's record. You'll get 50% of that person's record because you're filing at full retirement age. But your benefits are still going to be reduced. So your check is being reduced. How much you get from your spouse is based on not that reduced amount, but your full PIA, your primary insurance amount. I know it's complicated. People get this wrong all the time. Social media websites out there, people that attend that 2-day online class and get that little certificate that they're Social Security experts, they get this wrong all the time. And then people make the wrong decision. So go onto my website and there's a calculator on there. And anytime you have, particularly like survivor benefits the calculations are very, very strange, depending on the Windex PIA, and you've got widow's limb or rib limb thing, depending on when your surviving spouse took their claim and stuff like that. If you are entertaining starting benefits and you're wondering whether, okay, does all of that affect me? File. go into Social Security and say, hey, I want to file for survivor benefits, but you know, my ex or my spouse filed for benefits early. And therefore I know I won't receive the full benefit amount because of that rib limb, but I might receive a little bit more and all this kind of stuff. But I don't care about all that BS. Just tell me how much am I going to get if I start this month? And then you say, okay, now change the MOE, the month of entitlement. Change it till this time next year. Add a year on there. And then if your benefits increase, then you're not, then the rib limb doesn't apply to you. If it doesn't, that means, okay, you should pull the trigger now because your benefit's not going to increase. And if you go in there and file like that, and it turns out that the benefits do increase and you're going to make more money if you wait, then you just tell them, okay, I'm going to wait. So the Social Security employee won't care. They're not going to say, oh my gosh, I just lost the sale. No, they're like, okay, bye. And they're going to go back to their desk and work the other 400 cases they have stacked up there. So yeah, they're not going to pressure you. They better not pressure you. If they do, you ask to speak to the supervisor and says, hey, I don't want to file, but this guy's pressuring me to do it, or this gal's pressuring me to do it. So yeah, they're not going to pressure you. They better not. So, all right, we are over an hour and we are out of time. I'll be back again tomorrow with another topic and I'll answer a whole bunch more questions.